welcome to another edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline. Welcome to our show. We have some great conversation to come up in the next couple minutes, and we do our normal What's on Your Mind, but we're missing our other co-host, Magic Mike Migliori. He's not feeling well, and the weather's bad, and he's a little under the weather. So we're going to start with Chip Hayner here, one of our favorite substitute co-hosts. Chip, what's on your mind, buddy?
Oh, thanks, Alan. What's on my mind is, spent the weekend watching a lot of football and just how much of a disappointment the entire college bowl season has been. And, even coming into the, the championship game, I've just got such a sour taste because, you've got LSU, which is, unquestionably the number one team in the nation, and Alabama playing for the national title. And Alabama, you could be argued, is deserved to be there, but I think there are quite a number of other teams that have just as much of a case to make to be there as well. And I was thinking of a scenario. LSU beat Alabama earlier in the season. Okay, so now if Alabama beats LSU, who gets voted number one? Okay, they've got an even up record against one another, and then there's 3 or 4 other one-loss teams that, why shouldn't they be considered? So, it's a shame that one of those 2 teams will be crowned the champion because another team that's championship worthy will not. Another thing that's on my mind is, is watching the NFL this weekend and, coming into the playoffs and everybody's getting all worked up for it. And the sloppy play that I see on the fields and the lack of tackling is just absolutely amazing. The scores are just, the Green Bay Detroit game. What was the score? 45-41 or 48-45?
Right.
Who can remember? But that isn't football to me.
Where's the defense at?
Right? And they talk about their defenses and how they made a big play, but I just didn't see any of them.
Right.
But that's what's on my mind, Alan.
Well, I appreciate that. We got some points we'll talk about, I'm sure, because I'm on the same page with you on a lot of the topics that you brought up. What's on my mind is a couple issues. Normally, I just don't have one thing like Chip does, and he had 2, so I'll go with a couple myself. Dave Wannstedt actually got a promotion. Here's all these people bum-rapping Dave Wannstedt here in Pittsburgh, and now he's the defensive coordinator up in Buffalo there. So congratulations to him on that. He ended up parlaying that into a nice little gig there, and he's going to do the best he can, he said. Well, then I was watching some of the college football games myself, and one of the games I was interested in is Wisconsin and Oregon, because my buddy here, Smoking Jim Frazier, said that Wisconsin was going to win. Well, they had a nice offense, and I liked watching the game, and it gives me a little hope, Chip, with Chris coming here, that maybe we'll have an offense that'll set it up around the players that he has. So you can butt in any time.
Oh, that brings up an excellent point, because that's scumbag Todd Graham, snuck out of town, didn't even have enough wherewithal to face his team. Okay, he sent them a text.
I would call it gutless.
But right? I'd call it a lot more, but we're on television and I can't use that kind of language. But, he's supposed to be such a great coach, and this is the thing that perplexes me. Since 2006, he's now been head coach of 4 different teams. And if he was such a good coach, why is he going from here to there to there? And another mark of a good coach is he evaluates the talent he has, and he develops a system where the people in that system can thrive. He tried to force a square peg into a round hole this year. Right. And all I saw him do on the sidelines was scream and yell and berate his team, and he threw Tino Sinceri under the bus at every chance. And this is my humble opinion. I have no facts to base this up, but I think he was going to be stuck with Tino Sinceri as a quarterback because the alumni said he's going to be a quarterback here, and he just couldn't deal with it, so he took his toys and he went home.
Well, again, the high octane. We had talked on our show. Maybe you missed it, but he went to Arizona saying the same thing, same speech. And then here's the irony. You'll probably appreciate this. I was talking about it last week. They had the Arizona game. They were taking a picture. He's with one of the coaches or athletic directors, and it said Sun Devil. right next to his head. So with our sense of humor, I know you appreciate that.
But but hopefully, the new head coach of Pitt, and then I'd like nothing more than to see Pitt be successful. But he will utilize the talent that he has in the ways that it can be used and help these players, become a solid team. You can't force somebody to do something they're not capable of doing, and that to me is a sign of a good coach. And to speak on about Dave Wanstead, and I'd like to congratulate him on his promotion to defensive coordinator. And I'll be very honest with you, Dave Wanstead was at his best as a coach, as a defensive coordinator, and I think that's really what his forte is. And I think he could really turn Buffalo into a team that may be able to give the Patriots a little bit of a run.
Something,
I mean, the Jets. Looks like the wheels are falling off that bus, aren't they?
Well, did you hear about all the controversy with Rex Ryan crying? Santonio got escorted out of the building.
He's a year and a half, and he's alienated another team. And we saw this thing happen here in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And fortunately, we cut bait, and the receiving core now, I believe, is much better off without him than they were with him.
Well, it's a great point you bring up because look at Plax. Mm-hmm. All right, nice. Good receiver, but what kind of guy in the locker room?
Exactly.
You got issues. What guy brings a gun when he has bodyguards?
Yeah, well.
So, think about that mentality.
No, yeah.
Right? That causes issues. And then Santonio, here's the other thing. I have a pet peeve that you shouldn't make these guys captains when they don't deserve it or aren't voted on it by the other players on the team. And I think that Rex Ryan may have just appointed him a captain. And he reminds me of Yarmer Yager, who I like as an athlete, but should have never been a captain.
Right.
Because we hate him here now, or a lot of people do. I don't. Because he showed no leadership because he was too immature as a person.
Well, yeah. And people hate him in Pittsburgh, but not so much because he didn't live up to that big C on his shirt. He was, he was a jerk. Let's just put it, very
that's why,
calmly.
Right.
But hopefully, I don't know. I wish him the best. Don't wish anything bad to happen to him. But he'll never make anybody Pittsburgh, ever think anything but.
No, well, I liked him as a player. Just like I'm a huge sports fan, and these guys aren't my role model. Like Charles Barkley said, I'm not a role model for anybody. He gambled, he drank, who knows what else he did. Yeah. But he admitted that, and it's refreshing to have a guy tell you that. And now everybody builds up. This guy's the best guy ever, good community type of guy, good family man. And most of that stuff doesn't even apply to what we're talking about.
No, it doesn't. I think a lot of times people just glorify athletes, and there's no reason to. They're no different than you or I. They just have a job.
Well, they play at a better level maybe than we might
at
a child's game.
Yeah, they drive a better car, and they can, and they live in a bigger house. But, there are people no different than you and I, but the only problem is they live their life under a microscope. I'm sure there's, quite certain there's things I did in my life that I'm glad that people don't know anything about.
Well, that's why there's a thing called privacy. Mm-hmm. You're allowed to have some privacy, and that's what we have here in this country. Here, you're allowed to have it. But when you put these guys on a pedestal, getting back to that, it puts them in some situations that they aren't prepared to handle. Look at Santonio Holmes when he come here. He wasn't really a mature guy. They tried to take him under their wings and tried to work with him, but he had a lot of issues that come up.
Absolutely, and he did have a lot of problems in college, and there was a big gamble bringing him here. And generally the Steelers, look at people's character before they draft him.
The Steelers aren't perfect when you go back through history, and it's a myth that's been built up since they started getting championship teams.
No, But, anybody can, make a mistake, but at least they were smart enough to realize that, what, we made this mistake. We're going to get him off the team. We're not going to give him a $45 million contract and let him continue to be a cancer and embarrass, the city, the team, and the NFL in the process.
Right.
And, Santonio Holmes, the way he quit on Sunday afternoon, I'm sorry.
Does it remind you of Randy Moss at all?
Well, yeah. Randy Moss, he'll play when he wants.
Right, and there was one of the greatest receivers in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
If he would have just played 100%.
100% of the time.
Right.
When he played, he would take plays off, and
and he told people that, so he was honest.
Yeah.
He did say it, so he
Yeah.
did keep his word. But it seems like some of these guys, and it's a society today, they feel entitled, that somehow they have an entitlement that they can get away with this stuff.
Well, and because there's always somebody, and Rex Ryan says that Santonio Holmes will be back next year. I don't know why, but if they do cut him, I guarantee you it won't take long for somebody like Jerry Jones or Al Davis, if he were still alive. Yeah.
The legacy that he left.
That they would sign him. Or, another good one to pick him up would probably be Daniel Snyder in Washington.
Great point.
Because he loves to overplay for wasted talent. I mean,
that's a super point there. Well, look at Randall. You can't bum rap a guy getting a lifetime salary there that set him up, and then he come back here to end his career, and here's a guy overpaying again.
Oh yeah, he saw him in a Super Bowl, and
complete a touchdown pass to the MVP, Heinz Ward.
Watched an interesting program over the weekend on the NFL Network. It was they have these top 10 lists, and they were top 10 worst free agent signings of all time.
Was he in there?
Well, yeah, he was in there. Randall L. was in there, and of course, they said Albert Hainsworth was the biggest. But Daniel Snyder seems to
accumulate them all.
He seems to win the month of March every year in the NFL, and the only problem is the games are played from September to
you want to be December and January.
Yeah, he wins the free agent award, but it just. Stock loading the team with a bunch of high-priced free agents doesn't necessarily buy you a championship. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right.
Okay, they bought the best team in the land, and they're at home watching.
Well, exactly. And then when you spend $100 million on a quarterback who may be a great athlete, but he gets hurt a lot, what do you do when you got rid of Kolb, who was a good backup and even a good starter at times? You had nobody there.
Well, and I think
so that changed how they operate the team.
And I'll say this now, and I've said this in the past, that I don't think there is any team in the NFL that will ever win a championship with Mike Vick as their quarterback. They were never going to do it in Atlanta. There's just something about him. He's just, he doesn't get the players around him to play better. Certain quarterbacks, you look at Tom Brady, he gets a bunch of underachievers to believe that they can.
Right.
And he does. You look at Drew Brees, and he makes everybody on his team better.
Even Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, I mean, look what look at Indianapolis. They're firing everybody now. They're firing the general manager.
Can you believe Napoleon and his son did great.
They built the team.
Carolina, Buffalo,
yes,
and Indianapolis, and look what happens there.
And that's pretty interesting. And they fire them, and then you get the Chargers.
You know what? They can't get rid of the whole team. That's the problem.
But the Chargers and the Eagles. Two teams that everybody picked. A lot of people picked those two to meet each other in the Super Bowl.
Every year, the Chargers.
In the Super Bowls. And Norv Turner's going to be back next year, and so is Andy Reid. And those were the two of the most underachieving teams in the NFL this year.
Right.
I thought if anybody was going to lose their job this year, it would have been those two. I thought maybe Morris down in Tampa Bay.
Comment about Norv Turner was going to cost Norv Turner the job.
But it just amazes me that and I mean they're just wholesale firings all over, and what's going to happen to Tennessee? Mike Munchak's thinking about the Penn State job, and that leads me to another thing. What is going on with Penn State football? Okay. There's the sex scandal. There's, we get rid of Joe. We get rid of Joe Paterno. There's a brawl in the locker room. Come on, it has been 2 months. Name a head coach.
Right.
Okay. What are we waiting for? You're wasting the entire recruiting season now.
They lost it. Well, you know what I think is going to happen? They're going to get a sanction against them, and I don't think they're going to be able to be bowl eligible maybe for a year or 2 years. So they're sort of in a quandary. What do you do when that's going to come down where you're blacklisted in a sense?
Well, I mean, you just take a look over the other side of Ohio at the Buckeyes, okay? They brought in Urban Meyer, probably the most desirable coach available, and they're not going to be bowl eligible. But you know what? He'll take his medicine, but they got a good coach, and if anybody will rebuild that program,
I'm agreeing with you. I was just playing devil's advocate.
Right.
That look at how they screwed up the whole situation. They had to know, because you have police, state police involved in this. You have big-time administrators, all kind of other people out there, and it's just a delay because of that.
Yeah,
and I think they're screwing up because they're doing damage control, and it's one thing after another, so they missed out on that.
Right, and I think this program, it's going to be years before they're viable again, and that's such a shame for that to happen.
Smoking Jim Frazier has just entered the building. I'm glad to have him here tonight.
Happy New Year, Jim.
Happy New Year. As soon as he gets that mic hooked up, we'll try to get a camera just for Smoking Jim here. Welcome aboard.
Hey, thanks, Al. I appreciate it. Hey, Chip.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jim.
Thanks. Happy New Year.
What's on your mind, buddy? Because we've been ranting and raving about all kind of things. So if you even talk about what we talk about, no problem.
Well, I know nobody does it better than you two. I'm wearing a Detroit Lions throwback jersey. Everybody thinks it's a lot of our viewers haven't seen Detroit in the playoff in their lifetime. So this is not for Barry Sanders.
What was that, 99 or something?
This is not for Billy Sims. It's for Lem Barney, the other great number 20.
Oh, yes. There you go, Hall of Famer.
But I don't know why everybody's so upset with Pitt and Jamie Dixon for losing to Wagner and Long Beach State. They'll see them again in the NIT. Hey, Jamie Dixon, you don't have to worry about the Sweet 16 this year because there's nothing sweet about the 16 you're going to be seeing in the NIT. You guys, what's been going on?
We've been covering Steelers. We've been covering some friend of mine named Smoking Jim was talking about Wisconsin, who I was with them on, and they almost pulled it out. It was a heck of a game.
Well, I hope the new Pitt coach doesn't call spiking the ball with 2 seconds to go in any of Pitt's games.
Well, I've been known to gamble a little myself. And Russell Wilson is a very smart man. He was still arguing because when I looked at one of the last times they showed, it was like .011 something that was still on there when the ball hit. And he was still arguing if you saw him throwing his hands around. But I don't think Chris will have the chance to do a spike with 2 seconds to go.
Did they beat the spread?
No comment. There's too much of that out there. I watch all that stuff, Smoking. See, you're fitting right in here. We did talk a little bit about that and some of the football over the weekend with some of these games, how they forgot how to tackle and some of these scores.
Football games with basketball scores.
Yeah. I'll let Chip. He can't say it any better than that. So we've covered a few things, and we were saving the Steelers for you and, a few other topics. So we're about ready to head for Steeler talk
Yeah,
here.
we are. We're going to Denver. And I think, the Tim Tebow experiment is going to come to a crashing halt this weekend. And I do,
you didn't miss a beat.
There's everything in the world to root for this kid for, but he can't throw the ball. The last 3 games, look at him in Kansas City this past weekend.
Well, they did get behind. And when you're behind, they're teeing off on you.
But you don't think 6 of 22 for 60 yards is a good day?
Well,
No. Let me clarify that. No.
No, but you know what, though? And here's the thing. And
we like you.
And here's the thing. As the way Denver plays football, that was the kind of game that Denver should have won. They positioned themselves to win because a low-scoring game, but, just watching him throw the ball, I'm sorry. I like nothing more to see that kid succeed because, he's a feel-good story, but he just doesn't have it.
Well, you guys are assuming a couple of things. One, that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a better defense than the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm not convinced about that. Don't forget Kansas City beat and shut down Aaron Rodgers of Green Bay Packers. And also, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary is decimated. Yeah, that's a big word, man.
Okay.
I don't know why Ryan Clark's not going.
He might die.
He already lost the spleen and the gallbladder,
Let me give you the latest report. Hold on.
He's been cleared already with the sickle cell. He can't lose anything else.
Yes,
so he might as well play.
Listen to this. Somebody that has the sickle cell and they go out there can actually have a lung compression type of problem where they can't get air at that altitude if they have a sudden adjustment. I heard a doctor talking about it. That's how severe this is. It actually could cost him his life if he come out there going from Pittsburgh to Denver because
And
of
Al's
the
already
change.
proven again he knows more about black people than anybody I know. So,
But to speak to the Steelers defense,
Just people in general.
let's not lose sight of the fact that the Steelers defense hasn't had a touchdown scored on them in the last 2 games. Okay, so
Cleveland and the Rams. Wow.
well, they're still professional football
Yes, sir.
teams,
Yes, sir.
and they collect
Barely.
paychecks, and they've scored against other teams that were, So I think the Steelers will make it through the game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any sense in the word, but
Well, Chip, we won. You got 2 rookie cornerbacks that are gone, and Brian McFadden looked like he should be in a senior citizen home.
He
That's
didn't
how
look
terrible.
good.
And
My scouting report was he did not look good.
so you're looking for a close game. Also, running back situations. I mean, as much as we love big number 33, he put it on the carpet a couple of times,
Yes,
and
he
your
did.
psyche as a running back is affected when you lose the ball a couple of times. And say what you want about Mendenhall. Mendenhall kind of has a resume, so defenses has to prepare for Mendenhall. I don't think anybody's going to prepare for Clay, the free agent walk-on from Wisconsin.
Well, wait a second. Your man Clay beat out one of your men, Monty Ball.
Ain't that something?
And I was shocked. I was about ready to text you or call you because I almost fell off my seat that Monty Ball had to take a seat to John Clay until he lost weight and changed some of his work ethic and became a much better guy. And look at what he's
Well,
done.
Monty Ball like the chitlins in greens a little
Not
bit
enough
too much.
greens, though.
But, not only did, John Clay, too, as a junior, was the Big Ten
I remember.
Player of the Year.
I remember.
He actually got hurt a lot his senior year, and a freshman beat him out, White, number 20.
Right.
That got beat out this year by Monty Ball. So you are correct. You're up on your Wisconsin brothers.
I was trying because this scout here, he has too many insights. He sends me some lists, and I love to argue, and I can't argue with him. Again. But I just thought that was something interesting, and you didn't tell me that one, so I thought it was a setup.
But I hope Chip's right. I hope the Pittsburgh Steelers get by the Denver Broncos so they can get in.
Jim, they're going to get by.
it's not going to be a walk in the park. But I mean, they got to come ready to play, and I think, hopefully Lamar Woodley can, play at the level that he was playing at earlier in the year before he hurt his hamstring.
Well, he was out of shape here in Pittsburgh. Oh, he's going to die in that thin air up there. We might get a quarter out of him.
No,
Well,
I mean,
I'm thinking we get the first quarter, and then he starts reaching for that hammy, okay? Because that's what's going to happen. But if he can get a sack early, that'll set the whole tone of the game. And then while they're holding Harrison, he can sneak in there and send Troy. And Troy looked a little more healthy than normal.
He looked good.
So, I mean, that's what we need going into this. And, again, we do play to the level of the competition. It's a Steeler tradition. I'm not fond of it, but we do practice it. And this running back thing actually gave me a couple chills because I started to remember Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier.
Wow, Baltimore Colts game.
And you go back to that,
well,
we would have crushed them.
they say that was of the 70s. That was the best team of the teams of the 70s, and they didn't even win a championship that year.
Well, they had lost like 4 games in a row, wasn't it, at the beginning, and then they won 8 or 9 in a row at the end. And
Yeah, that defense.
they were
Well,
shutting
didn't
everybody
they
out.
had 3 shutouts in a row, which is like
Mike
unheard of.
Kruchek was a rookie quarterback that started.
After Bradshaw got spiked.
But that was the year Rocky and Franco both went over 1,000 yards. And because of the way the game was played by the Pittsburgh Steelers, it probably saved a lot of people's lives because that Baltimore Colt game, which Steelers scored 40 points on, all running, the game was over so soon. It was over in like 2 hours and 40 minutes. 10 minutes later, if it was a normal game, the airplane crashed into the stands. So it could've killed a lot of
Metropolitan
people.
Stadium.
You're
Absolutely,
exactly
I remember.
right. Sometimes you got to believe in God that fate intervenes somewhere.
No, but I
Gotta
think,
have some
to
faith.
be honest with you, I think the determining factor this week with the Steelers, and I think it's time that the young receivers, they stepped up and they got their due. And Antonio Brown, congratulations on being voted the team MVP. He had one heck of a year.
Here's one of his biggest supporters.
And I'm kind of a little perplexed. I watched Mike Wallace last week, and it didn't seem like he was his head was into the game. And
Maybe
I
his
think,
heart wasn't.
You know,
His heart.
whatever it wasn't, it seemed like he was in
Here's what I
he
wonder.
wasn't running the right routes. Or he wasn't.
Jim
where
might
he
be able
needed
to
be.
get into some of this stuff, but I always worry
Good
about
call, Jim.
everybody gets injured at some time or another during the season, and most players can play injured. And you wonder, did Wallace get hit a couple times over the middle and suffer some alligator arms and lose those route?
Wallace got a disease that I picked up on last year when I predicted that the Green Bay Packers would beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl, and it's called the big game disease. If you remember the great teams of the Dallas Cowboys, they had a great wide receiver during the regular season by the name of Alvin Harper. And even though Wallace is not as tall as Alvin Harper, he's faster than Alvin Harper. But Alvin Harper was great during the regular season, but disappeared in the big games and the playoffs. That's when Michael Irvin used to step up. And if you look at the playoffs last year, Mike Wallace disappeared during those playoffs. That's why I predicted Green Bay would win, because Mike Wallace would be a no-show, and the Pittsburgh Steelers had no go-to receiver after they got rid of Santonio Holmes and devalued Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was ready last year, but Mike Tomlin, again, who made a bad coaching decision by not taking the holding penalty and moving the kicker back, could have caused his team to lose the game. He made a bad decision with one bone, two dogs. He went with Tenderfoot Sanders over Antonio Brown in the game plan against the Green Bay Packers, and it cost them Stairway to 7.
Well, those are great insights. That's why we can't beat you, Jim. Smoke it, Jim. You're on fire with that stuff. I appreciate that. But that's what we notice, with some of these games. But I do think they win, and that's one of my predictions. I don't know if we'll get any further at the next round with whoever we play, because it might be Baltimore's year. That was the thing that was brought up before. It could be.
If you can't tackle Ray Rice, then then Baltimore's going to have their way. If Baltimore goes and plays Cincinnati, and they let Ray Rice run up and down the field, once again.
Right. Well, we had a conversation.
Did anybody
about that.
teach these people how to tackle? Right. You watch Detroit and Green Bay. Did anybody get tackled?
Wow.
Wow. Did anybody get tackled?
Wow. That was another one.
I'm like,
Here, we might as well ask Jim what he thinks about. I thought Aaron Rodgers would be MVP, but then now they're talking about Flynn come out, and you saw the yardage he put up. They're all saying, all over the sports talk and even on ESPN Flynn may have cost Aaron Rodgers the MVP because he pumped up a lot of yards out there too.
Well, I hope Flynn gets an opportunity to play for another team, because he'd be the next Scott Mitchell and the next big bust.
Right.
And all these guys.
Good point.
Matt Castle and all these guys who played good for a game. But I tell you what, here's the reason why Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. Number one, he got a great commercial out.
Yeah, it is
Number
nice.
two, he's only thrown 6 interceptions a whole year, 45 touchdown passes, and that's hard to argue.
What about Drew Brees, though?
My argument to that would be, look at the season that Drew Brees has had, and if you take Drew Brees off of the New Orleans Saints, they're not even making the playoffs. Where do they go? I wouldn't have even known who Green Bay's backup was had Aaron Rodgers not sat out last week. But, to come in, the team around Rodgers is so much better than, Brees makes the Saints. And I think the Packers are just all the way around a better team. Now, they talk about their defense, and it's a good thing that they can score 45 or 50 points a game, because they usually have a tendency to give up 30 or 35 points. And I think that's ultimately what's going to be their downfall.
You're talking Green Bay?
Green Bay,
okay.
and their run for the championship. It remains to be seen if New Orleans can go into Lambeau and beat them on the frozen tundra.
Well, Chip, I still predict the Packers go back-to-back. They win back-to-back. And I don't mind going out on a limb. Like you and Mike told me.
I will tell you this. The Packers.
Right.
The Packers is everybody's favorite this year, but I think this year that it's more up in the air, because I think there's probably a handful of teams that could legitimately, give it a stab. I think New England, even though they don't have a defense, they can score. They can score points.
Right.
Green Bay, obviously.
As long as Brady doesn't get hit, though.
New Orleans can match anybody touchdown for touchdown. And, if Detroit could get on a roll, don't count them out. Matthew Stafford has had an incredible year this year. This is a kid that I thought was really fragile, and I was like, he's never going to make it through an NFL season. And you know what? He's got heart, and he's playing, and he's playing with the big boys. I mean, to think 11 touchdown passes thrown in one football game.
Wow.
That's just,
NFL.
did you ever think you would see that in your lifetime?
No, maybe in the AFL, but not
the AFL, World Football League, maybe.
Well, the way they've got football now, you can't hit the quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't hit the receivers. Pretty soon they're going to make it so you can't tackle the running backs, because they want it to be a scoring game. I think, that they're over officiating the games. They need to let them go back and let them play.
What do you think of the wimpy call that they called on Brady when he threw an interception and all the guy did was block him with a push?
You know what?
And they called
that's ridiculous. Okay?
Here's the
that's
thing.
ridiculous.
Whether you're a fan of Big Ben or not, we're not talking Big Ben's character.
Doesn't happen to
We're
Roethlisberger.
talking about physicality. Big Ben has said, just call him the same way that you do for Brady, Manning, Breeze, whoever.
You could
and
put
they don't.
Right.
There's
You can put an
definitely-
ankle lock on Ben, and they're not going to call it.
No.
It's
They break his nose and then he don't even get a call.
There's not a penalty.
Wait till you see what happens when Peyton Manning gets back. There's going to be a 5-yard buffer. If you get within it, they're probably going to throw a flag.
I think they're going to have a special. They're going to have a special force field around him, so you won't be able to even get into it. That's how it'll protect him. But no, you do have to watch these things, because imagine, if we had the same call on Big Ben, how many times would that have happened this year that Brady got?
Wow.
I mean, that's every play. So what kind of offense would we have? They'd have to back off, right? And our line hasn't been good for 3 or 4 years, and we've gone to the Super Bowl.
Our quarterback
and won.
wouldn't have to limp.
Right. I mean, he could take a game or two off and heal that high ankle sprain. You might know more about the high ankle sprain, but that takes a long time to heal, especially when you're out there getting hit. Am I right or wrong?
That's true.
Okay,
So, Alan, you went ahead with your first prediction. You said you had some predictions written down.
All right.
Okay. And as much as we joked about the
Let
NBA.
me call my bookie.
Now that the NBA's back, and we joked about this a lot earlier while they were on strike. This is what my prediction is for the NBA this
don't
year.
read my paper.
I say the Oklahoma City Thunder is going to win the NBA championship this year, and they're going to beat the Heat in the finals.
Wow.
And watching LeBron James go down the commode again will be kind of nice.
Hold it, he's a changed man. My prediction, Miami Heat
Okay.
win the NBA title, because you had the dream team, had their expectations were so much better than the rest of the league, and they found out they had to work. Now they went, LeBron choked at the end, he disappeared.
He disappears
at
in
the game.
finals.
Now he sees, he talked to Michael Jordan, all these other guys, because they talked to him, and they said, you have to show up. So it's on him. I think when you challenge a guy who's a great athlete, they have a decision to make, because he can play with anybody.
What do you talk to Michael Jordan at, where he makes it in a third world country where he makes his tennis shoes?
Well, no, the underwear.
Okay.
It's the underwear. It's more private than that. I didn't say it's a good thing. I just said that they have talk and conversation about you have to at least make the shot at the end. Because how many shots did Michael Jordan miss at the end, too?
Well,
he did miss a bunch.
You got to miss
but
a
you
few
have to make them.
To make
And
them,
try 'em.
you're going to miss them.
Right.
But here's my argument against
Thanks,
LeBron James winning the title. You got a lot of great athletes, and somebody like Michael Jordan, he made the players around him better. Okay, they rose to his level. LeBron James doesn't make the people he plays with better. It is the LeBron James show. I think he's a very selfish player, and when things aren't going exactly his way, he just throws in the towel. Maybe he could prove me wrong, but that's just my take on him, and that's why I don't see him as ever being a champion.
Up until this year, he has the chance.
Time will tell.
After this year, if he disappears, then I know you're right, and what my thought was previously is definitely right.
No,
So
we shall
we'll
see.
see.
That's why they play the games, eh?
Right.
Did you write that out in the number 2 pencil?
Yes, I did have a number 2 pencil. You can see how well I write.
Okay.
Where's your list? Do you have any ideas on some picks, or do you want me to?
I'm gonna piggyback
No.
off of you.
Okay, you
No,
can bust my chops. Here, I'll go through a little list that we can have.
Yeah, sure. We can debate the points.
We haven't talked about one of our local teams, and one of my predictions is Crosby's going to come back in March, and the Penguins win the Stanley Cup.
Wow,
Because their players will be healthy.
That'd be great.
And I'm an optimist. I'm a Zig Ziglar. I'm a different type of guy that believes in positive type of
I
things.
understand. You know, and as
Surprised
much
you
as
didn't like Les Brown.
as much as I want to, as much as I want that to happen.
Brian
you know,
Tracy.
I heard somebody say that their prediction was that this the injury that Sid had to his head is going to force him to retire. And I was like, well, there's no way he's going to be forced to be retired. But, you know, we know so little about head injuries, and we're finding out so much. And I think the NHL really has a problem, and I think they really need to do something about it from the league standpoint and the officiating standpoint, because there are so many players on each team that are concussed right now. And if you look down the injury roster, and you know the players are just moving so fast on the ice, and they have such hard surfaces to play against, you know. And generally the concussions are not coming from their heads striking a hard surface. It's from the whiplash, from the impacts that they're getting because they're going so fast. So they've got to try to figure out some way to protect the players better, and I don't think it's equipment.
I've heard people talk about the NFL. Look what they've done for concussions. Well, they're having concussions with good helmets and a change of the rules. So I think you've reached a point in time that the athletes have gone past what anything you can do about safety equipment until you change something. I mean, I've kidded around that, what about a soft helmet? Think about it. You've played football. You have to change your whole style if you had a soft helmet. Yeah. I mean, have a face mask and a visor, because people like poking and doing different things when you're on the ground, and you know you need to protect yourself. But what if you had a soft helmet that did provide some support, even with a neck support, because that's with the whiplash. You might look sort of like a robot, might not have all the flexibility, but if you change a couple things, and this is just me throwing it out, if you did that, and it's crazy, but look what players would have to do. They'd have to change a little bit. And in hockey, they have no protection whatsoever. Those helmets don't protect them.
You know, and fighting in hockey, okay? I mean, now everybody gets fired up for fighting in hockey, and we're talking about people with head injuries, but yet, you know, two guys can sit there and punch each other in the head repeatedly. You know, like it's.
But do you know why? Do you know why that won't change? Because it's a Canadian sport, and they run the rules committee and everything. It's mostly the Canadians, and that's
it's a Canadian
traditional
sport played in America.
Right, but it's changed because of the economics, you know. But the thing is, those are the facts. I agree with you, but I'm telling you why that they aren't changing. It's because
and it's not the fighting that's causing the concussions. The concussions
only
is
a couple
the
times.
speed that the game's played at, and you know these kids are just big and strong and they're fast, and they've got to try to do something to protect the players from themselves. And I think the only way they can do that is, you know, is to penalize, put an extra ref out there or something. I'm just, just babbling. But
is concussions that big a deal in football and in hockey? Because, you know, guys like me, I come to the game and see people get carried off the field. I mean, I think that is part of hockey, and I think it's part of football.
It's the gladiator mentality.
And they keep trying to protect the players. There's not you don't have a right to play. You choose to play. Just like these receivers, nobody put a gun to your head and make you play wide receiver and go over the middle. You choose to do that, and you have.
Well, then you make a good point. Also, what's the average career? What, around 3 years? So think about how many guys are out in their first month, 2 months, 6 months of their career.
Well, that 3 years. I think nowadays the 3 years is on a talent level.
But I thought maybe on an average that they even stay in the NFL.
Yeah, because they're not that good.
Right.
You know, Ray Lewis is in the NFL for 17 years, and nobody's played the game since Dick Butkus as violently as Ray Lewis, and he's never getting hurt.
No, and
He's
you know,
hurting people.
and I agree with you, Jim. There's nothing I like more in football. I don't like seeing a football game with 11 touchdown passes in it. I like to see a good, hard-hitting defensive game.
Right.
You know, a 17-13 game that, you know, the guys are, yeah, you know, they're beat up. I mean, I love to watch the Steelers and the Ravens play. I mean, I'm a Steeler fan and always will be, and it breaks my heart because I know that they play 10 times, they're each going to win 5, you know, because the teams, they're so rough and physical. You know, but that's the whole joy of watching the Steelers and the Ravens play is they just go at it, you know.
Well,
but I agree with you. I mean, I do see that, but in this kind of general world we're trying to create, you know, we're trying to, I guess, manage violence, and
well,
you know, that's what
we're trying to control a lot of the things that happen, and you bring up
with me,
a great point. It's simple.
Well, see, with me, I watched the game. I think I watched the game for the name on the front of the jersey, not the back of the jersey. I mean, because Mendenhall is out, it's not going to diminish, you know, my interest in watching the Steelers versus Denver. I forgot that Santonio Holmes even played for the Steelers. I mean, once you go, you start cheering for the next guy up.
Yeah,
so, you know,
you're talking like Tomlin. The standard is the standard.
Well,
you know what? Now I know where you're drinking that Kool-Aid. I caught you.
Hey, Jim,
Jim,
I'll tell you what, you know, I like to represent all of my local teams. And, you know, it's funny that you mentioned I root for the team that's on the front of the jersey. When I wear my Steeler gear, it says the Pittsburgh Steelers on it. I won't wear numbered jerseys because it's not about the players. Okay. You know, it's about my team. You know, when I root for the Pirates, there is one jersey that I will wear when I root for one of my hometown teams, and I'll proudly wear that number 21 on a Pirates jersey any day of the week.
That's definitely. But I'll tell you this much: if somebody gives me a jersey with somebody's number on it, I'll wear it. I don't have a problem with that.
You weren't impersonating Ben a few years back. That wasn't you, was it?
No. I'm better looking than Ben will ever be. And I'm not as arrogant as he is. And I don't have the talent that he does. But I could talk my way out of the situations that would ever come up with him better than he would ever do. And I don't need anybody else to help me like he has. I don't need an entourage. 1 on 100's about fair for me.
So you're not walking around with a T-shirt that says "Drink like a champion," huh?
No.
So, you know,
but I'll wear a number of somebody. If you give me a T-shirt or a shirt, if it has your number, I'll wear it.
Remember a few episodes back, I was here and I managed
5,
to give
7, and 9.
I managed to give a shout out to Tony Romo, and I said he had this innate ability to shoot himself in the foot.
Yes.
Did he not rise to the occasion
Yes,
Sunday night?
Yes, he did.
True to form. And you know, and Jerry Jones seems to think that he's going to be the quarterback that's going to take him to the championship, and it's not going to happen.
You make a great point there, and you have no argument from us here.
I heard something good, Chip, and now somebody says, you know, they're talking about the blunders that Tony Romo has in the playoffs and going down the stretch.
Right.
They says, well, you can't blame him for the 1 year where he dropped the ball on the extra point. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can blame him. It was right there. Another choke job.
Well, just like you bring up, you know, with how people play the sport. I want to see it. I'm only talking about a soft helmet because some of these guys are headhunters. And throughout sports, you have a few that are like that, and that would eliminate that.
I treat guys like they're a piece of meat. That's all they are. They're a
Right.
piece of meat.
And
if I was still running the league, it'd be every team would have AstroTurf field and a dome stadium.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
I-
You'd be good back in the Roman days. You'd be the emperor, and you send the gladiators out.
I'll be honest with you, Jim.
I wouldn't go to that.
I love watching football games played in December and January outside. I love watching games played in the environment.
I like a game
Well,
on
it goes
grass.
back, you know, if you
Put
go
it on
back,
grass,
if you go
and
back
I'll
and
agree
watch
with you.
films, the best team in football, probably, I don't know what year it was, maybe 1981 or something. Dan foul. That's back when you could have the best record in football, but you still may have to go on the road. You didn't have, there wasn't home field advantage.
The Chargers
and
played the
Dan
Bengals.
Fouts had to go to the Bengals, and they
16
ended up
below.
getting beat.
16 below.
Yes. And to me, I think that right now, if you want to open the sport up to the women and kids like they've been doing you know, there's a lot of women that loves football now. You got to make every game, it should be, you know, equal chance. You know, the environment, wind conditions the same way, and that's what you do with the dome.
But you know what? If you did that, you know, then you'd have to play every single game on a neutral site. You know, there could, you know, because
no, you can't.
Because you know, there's something about having the home field
Good
advantage.
point,
You
good
know,
point,
so
good
I mean,
point.
you know, unless you got and played every game in the middle of a cornfield in Nebraska, then you could, then you could take. You could take all that out, but there's something about having somebody come to your house and play, and if you earned the right to have all the home games in the playoffs played in your stadium, then that's your advantage.
Well, I definitely agree with that, but I mean, you look at the advantage that hockey has. When I go to the playoff games, the Penguins at the Civic Arena, it was like a concert, and it was so loud. Mm-hmm. Everybody's fired up, but it was the same conditions in terms of the environment. You didn't have to worry about the wind. I mean, that was crazy. I mean, the catches that Antonio Brown was making. If anybody stepped outside Sunday at Pittsburgh and see how much wind it was, that's incredible. Right. That's incredible to have to throw in those kind of conditions. And Dome would take all that away.
But didn't football become special from the 30s on because you played on all these different fields, all these different type of field conditions? That's what made it special. So if you're a history guy like I am, instead of making it equal, that's like why change the helmets or whatever else that I was talking about? Why protect them from all these concussions or make a few rules and have them be consistent on the rules? I think you have the rules to protect quarterbacks and other players. I mean, look what happens to a running back. As soon as he runs, you can go helmet to helmet with him. And the question I have for you, Smoking Jim, since how many concussions has James Harrison had because he is a true headhunter and that's his style. He's only, 5'11", 5'10". He can't help but do that because he gets in the proper football technique to make a tackle. Now, he's hitting you head on almost every play because that's how he was trained. So how many concussions has he had? And they don't check because the force that he's using, and you know what a strong guy he is.
Well, anytime you break an orbital bone in your face and keep on playing, but you all you have to know about James Harrison, how many concussions he had going back to college, is just ask him a question and wait for the answer.
Okay, well,
and you know he's concussed. I mean, the one year they won the Super Bowl, he says, "I'm not going to go to the White House because he's only inviting us because we won."
Right.
If
my
Arizona
point,
would have won, they'd have got invited. Oh, wow, James.
but my point is, we all know guys that the concussions they're causing, they're receiving too, and that's why they're like they are. And that's my point to it. You aren't protecting the guy who's making that violent hit. They used to like to promote that on DVDs and 8-tracks and VHSs over the years and cassettes. So, I mean, that's part of what they miss. They like promoting the violence of the sport because you're going back to the gladiator days with your thing. One Coliseum. I'll bring the history books out and let them go at it.
We'll get to some of your predictions.
Oh, you interrupted. I'll get, okay.
Did you say the Heat are
I said
win?
the Heat win. All right. Now we have another one. Since Tiger Woods is starting to come back, he wins the Masters again this year.
Wow, that's really going out on a limb.
Fried chicken or whatever they eat.
Yeah.
Well, I think that happens. I mean, sometimes I don't go with a favorite.
Well,
Now, my next pick, I go with a favorite. In baseball, the Texas Rangers have come to the World Series twice.
Wow.
I think they win it this time. That's my prediction that the third time will be the charm, Smoking Jim, for the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
They have a nice all-around ball club, and now the Angels or whatever they are in Los Angeles or Anaheim got Pujols, so that could be a little test there in the American League, but who knows. But I think they can do it. And since we talk local sports a lot, I got to go to the Pirates. They're going to set the longest record again of a losing streak and hit 20 years. And they'll still keep the same ownership and the same manager.
I would like to argue that point with you, and I'm a Pirate fan from
I am
from
too.
the day I was born. 5 weeks after I was born, Mazeroski hit that home run.
Wow!
And
wow!
my mother had me at a doctor's visit at McGee across the street.
Wow.
And my father my father made me pay for it because my grandfather didn't take him to the game, and so he took it on him. I'm just joking, but I went down to Pirate
You're allowed
Fest.
to kid around.
I went down to Pirate Fest this. Yeah, I did. And I'll tell you what, I'm definitely guzzling the Kool-Aid that Clint Hurdle is selling right now.
Really?
Clint Hurdle, I think, is the right man for this team, and I think the Pirates are going to be a better team this year than they were last. They won 72 games last year, okay? They won 15 more than they did the year before. Now, can they make the step to win another 10 games? There was easily 10 games that they lost last year that they could have won, okay?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. But
Yeah.
they were learning how to be in a competitive baseball game, to be in a
I have to
studio
interrupt you. Here's the problem
pennant
I
race,
have.
okay? So I think that
Their pitchers overachieved. Were having career years for the first 100 games. I don't think you can get that out of the same players again. Look at Morton.
Okay.
Actually hurt himself. He may not be back till later on.
I don't think that the Pirate pitchers overachieved. Here's what I think. I think the Pirate pitchers were overused and they were worn out and they didn't have anything left in the tank when it got to August. Now, if you watch the games that they were winning in May and June, they were using 5 or 6 pitchers every single game. Okay, right. So there was nobody was getting any rest, and every game was, we would win 3-2 or 2-1. Right. Now, if we can get a team that can score runs and you can not have to use your entire bullpen every single game, I think, you're going to have a pitching staff that will be able to take you further into the season. So, once again, they were going through a learning process, and I think they found out a lot about the arms that they have, and I think they've got some young talent in the organization that's going to come up and surprise a few people.
Well, I'm hopeful, and I like when at least they win early in the year, because then it's not so disappointing because we've had so many years of it. Yeah. And the problem I do have is the hitting hasn't really changed. The talent that they brought in is old talent, and because you have this ownership that we've talked about, the mentality, it's not a winning mentality. It's not a winning environment.
No, but I think that is changing, and the one thing the Pirates really
He drank all the Kool-Aid.
No, what they really need to do is they need run production from the corners of the infield, okay?
Yes.
I think their outfield will be adequate enough, but they need Pedro Alvarez to be the Pedro Alvarez that they say he will be, and they need a first baseman that can give you 70 or 80 RBIs. If they can get 70 or 80 RBIs out of each corner, they're going to be a much more competitive team. Right. Now, you got last year you got 40 RBIs out of the third base position, and then you had Lyle Overbay, and then you finally brought in Derek Lee at the end of the year, who looked like, well, geez, what would this have been if we'd have had him all year?
And he got hurt, which was a tough thing to handle.
Exactly. But what the Pirates need, and I like that they didn't go out and waste money on an overpriced veteran who is well past his prime, which is what they've done in the past. Okay.
And you're saying with after drinking all that pitcher of Kool-Aid, that's not going to happen, brother.
You know what? I don't think it will. And I honestly think that the answer to the Pirates' problems are within the organization right now. And they may not make it all to the team this year, but within 2 years, I say the Pirates will be
my thing is they will improve, but it'll still be a losing season. That's my point.
Okay, I'll bet you $1 on TV.
$1. We got $1.
I'll take 50 cents of that.
Hey,
50 cents for you. We'll do it twice. No, just once.
Just for.
But I'll take it.
And grins and giggles,
You'll be on the show.
Okay.
Once they have that 80-second loss.
Because I'll tell you one thing that they're really what the Pirates did last year, and yeah, I know they lost.
I hate to take your money
for 19 years, but I'll tell you what. It was so much fun being a Pirate fan in May and June last year, and they rejuvenated the entire city. And and Pittsburgh really is a baseball town. I mean, they've had the Pirates for what, 124 years
since 1876. All right,
you were there
when they were the Colonials,
and you were there.
I was born a couple days after that.
What else you got?
All right, I got a few more. Maybe they're controversial, maybe they're not. But another Pittsburgh guy is going to bring a championship home. Calipari in Kentucky is going to bring home the winner this year. He should have won it last year. Yeah. So I think he wins it. And then since we're going to be running out of time, I think we're starting to get down the last 6-7 minutes here. Penn State is going to get sanctioned and banned from a bowl game just because of all this nonsense that went on. And look at the delays on even getting a coach. I mean, what are you waiting for? He lost out on getting recruiting classes.
Where's Bradley going to end up?
He's going to be out of a job.
And
what's
that's
gonna happen.
and that's a
And
shame
it may
because
not
that
be
man should
permanent.
be a head coach
should
of
have been
some
at Pitt.
university. You know, and to be honest with you, it's a shame what's going to happen to him. You know, and you know, if Penn State wanted to do the right thing after all this screwing around they're doing, they ought to make him the head coach. You
Well,
know,
they aren't going to do it, and
No.
political pressure, alumni pressure, and all this other nonsense that went on. And we don't know. That's going to be the biggest scandal we were talking about before the end of last year. I still feel that'll be the biggest scandal, not just in sports, but almost in anything in the United States once it all filters out.
And just to speak to your thing about Kentucky winning the national championship,
I knew
and
he couldn't let
doubt
it
that
go.
they will. But you know, John Calipari is a unique coach because he holds the distinction of taking 3 teams to he's taken 3 teams to the Final Four for the first
3
time.
different teams, right?
Because Massachusetts got sanctioned,
Yeah.
and they took away all their wins. Memphis lost
Oh,
all their
Dad.
wins. Okay, so
You ain't trying with Calipari.
so
Wait a
he said
second.
Kentucky was his first trip to the
Wait
Final
a-
Four. Massachusetts, no.
Hold it. My theme is I always go back to one guy, Don King, controlling 2 fighters.
Yeah.
And that isn't against him. It's what happens in
No.
sports.
And you know what?
And
John
it's not a
Calipari is
pure
an amazing
thing.
coach.
He is.
He's an amazing coach. He gets amazing talent. You know, and you know, Kentucky is, you know, he's got as good a chance
Don't
as
they
anyone.
say rules are made to be broken?
That's it. He's broken, and we got 2 minutes left. Let's get you guys' NFL predictions throughout the playoffs. You got anything?
Well, I
I
mean,
was
this
focusing
is
on all
not
that.
going out on a limb or anything, but I'm going to say the New Orleans Saints are going to make it to the Super Bowl, and they're going to beat
Okay.
Green Bay and Lambeau. Okay,
Okay.
I may as well go out and stick my neck out on the chopping block for something. And you know, I know this is the homer in me, but I still think the Steelers can make it all the way. You know, they've won 12 games.
A black and gold Super Bowl.
You
Huh?
know, they've won 12 games, and you know what? I shook my head at the way they played some of those games, but you know, 12-4 kind of speaks for
Where they
itself.
playing the Super Bowl at this year?
Indianapolis.
Dome Stadium. There go my argument. Go ahead. What do you got?
Here's one off sports. This isn't about sports, but we're in 2012, and there was a prediction from the Mayan calendar that on 12/21/2012 the world will end. My bet, so I can collect another bet, is it will not end, and they were mistaken on all that. And it's just like the Y2K, where they create a panic
I still got my
and a
generator.
disaster. So, well, that's okay. But
So
if
what
the
you-
magnets, if the poles reverse, all bets are off.
12-21-12. What's up with all the 1s and 2s?
That's the
You know?
Mayan calendar, like from 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. So, but we've had an interesting show here, and
What do you got as far as NFL?
Steelers and the new 2 back-to-back Packers winning. And I know I stole your thunder. I know you're a Packer
What do
man.
you like, Jim?
Well, I like. I think this is Ray Lewis's year, the greatest player in NFL history. Ray Lewis beats.
Green Bay.
It'll be a hardball Super Bowl. San Francisco
San Fran.
versus Baltimore. Defense wins championships. About 6 or 7 concussions in that game.
Are you sure? Is that just with the coaches themselves?
Hey, you know what? Somebody's going to be right.
There's no doubt. You didn't pick any favorites there, Jim. I like your style. But I think we're going to have to wrap this show up. It's been a very exciting show. I'm glad you tuned in. Hope you see us on YouTube. And thanks for watching our show. And go to Pittsburgh Sportsline at gmail.com. Give us a couple little emails. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.